Welcome back. We all enjoy celebrating a new life when a baby is born. Well, now Montefiore is adding an extra layer of protection to ensure these babies stay safe. They've added on an additional 14 screenings for rare diseases on top of the standard 50 disorders currently included in the routine newborn screening panel. Here to tell us more about this is Dr. Melissa Wasserstein, the Chief of Pediatric Genetic Medicine for the Children's Hospital at Montefiore. Dr. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I can only imagine the last year has been very different. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
So Screen Plus, as you mentioned, is a newborn screening program. It's actually a research program where we're testing to see how well newborn screening works for 14 additional disorders. So basically every baby in the United States has a newborn screening test when they're born. And the purpose of newborn screening is to pick up and diagnose rare disorders before they become apparent. And the goal of doing that is so that we can make these diagnoses as early as possible, so we can offer treatment as early as possible and get the best outcome. So
Go ahead, sorry.
So Screen Plus, we're adding on an additional 14 disorders to see how well they work.
And how do you guys conduct these screenings?
So every baby at birth has a little bit of blood taken from their heel. So they have a little needle put in their heel. They get blood spotted onto a filter paper. And that tiny little bit of blood gets mailed to the New York State Newborn Screening Laboratory, where it gets tested for the routine disorders. For Screen Plus, once that's done, we then walk that sample down the hallway to our colleagues in the newborn screening laboratory who are working with us on Screen Plus, and then we do the Screen Plus assay. So there's no additional blood needed. It's the sample that was already taken from the routine newborn screening sample.
So you guys were originally screening for 50 disorders. Now you've added on an additional 14. Why did you guys add on the 14?
So just to clarify, New York State routinely screens every baby for 50 disorders.
Mm-hmm.
Screen Plus is the additional 14 disorders. And we've chosen these disorders in particular because they are all serious disorders. They can all have symptoms during infancy or during childhood. And very importantly, they all have a treatment or something that's currently being tested for new treatment, so an investigational therapy. Meaning that if we do diagnose a baby with one of these rare disorders through Screen Plus, we'll actually be able to offer treatment or help to that family and to that baby.
When did you guys start this new Health Plus screening?
Screen Plus started on May 10th. So it's a new program. We started at the Jack D. Weiler Hospital. Within the next several months, we're also going to be expanding to other New York City hospitals, as well as out on Long Island.
And, starting, the first Screen Plus, tell me what the feedback was from the family. How was that experience?
Well, so far seems to be pretty good. We're not only speaking with every family to see, we're getting permission from the parents, of course. We're getting consent for them to enroll their baby in the study. But we're also asking those parents who don't want to enroll, what reasons why, and there's not too many, thank God. But we want to make sure that we are being able to offer this screening to all babies. We don't want to miss anybody, but we want to understand if there are reasons why people don't want to participate, what those might be. But so far the feedback has been amazing. It seems as though families are very eager to participate. They seem to understand the importance of early diagnosis, early detection, in a really rare chance that their baby screens positive, and that chance is really small. These are all really rare diseases. The best outcome is if we detect them early. So it seems as if families are really excited, as excited as we are about it.
Can you tell me a little bit about the diseases included in those 14?
So most of the disorders are what we call lysosomal storage disorders. Basically, they're all metabolic disorders. They can affect many different parts of the body, depending on which disease it is. So they can affect the liver and the spleen and the lungs and the brain, even the bones for some disorders. So they Depending on which one it is, they present in different ways, but they're all pretty serious. So the goal is to try to treat early so that we can minimize those effects on the lungs and the liver and the spleen and the bones and the brain.
And I can definitely see why parents would want to get these screenings for their children. But are there parents who have said, are a little hesitant and they don't want to? And if so, what are their reasons for that?
We're learning that. We're actually part of our, again, this is a research study, so part of the study is to find out if there are parents who don't want to participate, what are their reasons why they don't want to participate? And we're getting that feedback so that it'll help us make sure that we're doing things in the right way. So if they're telling us that they don't want to participate because they don't understand it enough, we're going to modify how we're discussing it with them so that we explain it better. If they're telling us that they don't want to participate because they don't think they've ever seen this disease in their family, we'll feed back to them and say that these are all rare. It's unlikely you've seen it, but it still might be there, so it's important to participate. So we're learning from our families. They're active participants in this study.
And tell me a little bit about Montefiore's participation in this study. Are you guys the first hospital? And could this possibly be rolled out to hospitals across the nation?
So this is, again, it's a research study. So we have an NIH grant for this study, which was awarded to us here at Montefiore and Einstein. So that's why we're starting here. The goal is to roll it out right now in other hospitals in New York. Ideally, we would love to be able to do it nationwide, but we're collaborating with the New York State Newborn Screening Program, which is why we're in New York State right now. If we did have enough funding and we did have enough support, then yeah, I think it would be ideal to roll it out to other states. The more babies, the better. I think the more babies we could save through a program like Screen Plus.
And, as a chief of pediatric genetic medicine, what is your role in this study?
I'm actually the principal investigator of the study. So I had written the grant, and thank God we got awarded the grant. So I'm responsible for everything in the grant, which means that I'm a very active player in overseeing every aspect of what's going on, making sure that it's running smoothly, getting all the collaborators to work together, securing the funding, etc.
And your conversation with parents, they've just had their child. Can you walk me through some of the talking points that you use when introducing this to new parents?
So we have somebody who discusses the study one-on-one. So it's a personal discussion with each family because we want to, again, make sure that they are heard and that they understand what's going on. So that discussion includes what newborn screening is, because some parents aren't even aware that their baby is undergoing newborn screening. It discusses what Screen Plus is, that it is a voluntary study. It discusses that we use the same spot of blood that was already taken for the routine newborn screen. There's no additional sampling needed. It's free to families because it's part of, again, a funded study. We discuss the disorders that are part of Screen Plus. We discuss what it might mean if their baby has a positive screen, and what that would mean is that we would, as part of Screen Plus, follow that baby, treat the baby as needed with their input from their own personal physician to make sure that the baby gets the care that they need. So that's what the discussion looks like. It's giving them as much information as we can about the study to let them make the informed decision if they want to participate or not.
And can you elaborate a little bit more? You said, if their baby does test positive for some of these diseases, you guys will be following up with them. Can you elaborate a little bit more for me on what that would look like?
Sure. So all of the hospitals that will be Screen Plus pilot hospital right now, the Weiler Hospital, again, other hospitals in New York State, all of them have a medical geneticist like myself who are the principal investigators at each site. And all of us as medical geneticists are very used to dealing with children who have positive newborn screens for the routine newborn screen. So what that means is that if a baby with one of these disorders turns out to be positive, we will contact that baby. We're familiar with the disorders. We'll call the baby in. We'll, obviously educate the family about what things might look like, and then we will treat the baby if treatment is needed. So we've chosen a team specifically who knows these disorders, who are familiar with them, and who know how to treat them. So the families, if they do have a positive result, will be taken care of very well.
Where can new or expecting parents go to find out more about this study?
So we have our website, screenplusny.org. And families, again, can participate only if their babies are born in one of our pilot hospitals. That's just the way that our structure is working right now. But we would love anybody to look at our website, read more about the study, learn more about the program.
And is there anything I didn't ask you about that you wanted to elaborate more on with this study?
I think it's a unique study because when we're evaluating new disorders for newborn screening, some of these similar pilot studies look at one disease at a time. So they might want to see how well newborn screening works for disease X. So they do a pilot study for disease X. This is a unique one because we're looking at diseases 1 through 14. So there's a lot more than we would typically do on a pilot newborn screening program. So, and the other piece of it that I think is also really interesting and worth discussing is that our funding is not only from NIH, but we're also working with a whole lot of industry sponsors as well as patient advocacy groups. Everybody's interested in newborn screening. Everybody wants the best outcome. So we've actually kind of found a way to all work together, all with the same goal in mind, is to help these babies. But I think it's also kind of a great way to show how this kind of team science, this group effort, people working together can actually make really great things happen.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Dr. Wasserstein. We are taking a quick break, but we will be right back.